If I hit record and ask you to do it, you might be shocked and say, oh, you want me to do it now? I'm not ready. Right? So go ahead and do that.
Jeff, I'm laughing too hard to really talk right now. So
okay. I'll give you a chat. I'll give you a second.
Okay,
go ahead.
This is Kimberly Pittman Schultz at poetowl.com, and I am on Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, and you are listening to it now.
Well done. Good job. You want to do it
Thank
again
you.
so we can screw it up, or is that good for you?
It's really, hey, it's what works for you, or
no, it's perfect.
The poor next person is going to have my voice on their program. Who is that lady that's opening my show? Where did you get this lady?
Well, there you go. I'm going to hit stop. I'll be right back.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Donna Bond, thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer, and welcome to the show. How's it going?
Great, Jeff. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
I think this is going to be a lot of fun, right?
It is.
It started with your fountain outside your little office there.
I know. Well, and it was trash day on Thursday, but there was a holiday this week, right?
Oh,
so
right. Okay.
You never know what might happen outside the window today. I got to just warn everybody.
Yes, life's like a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get. Okay, so you are Donna Bond. You're at donnabond.com. Donnabond.com. That's on. I like it. And then
phonetically perfect.
Phonetically perfect. Yes.
Yeah, I married into Bond, right? Yeah, I married into that name, which is super fun. I grew up Italian, and my maiden name is Lupacino, but I had a chance to be a Bond girl.
How awesome is that?
Pretty cool.
Yeah, good for you. Okay, so you're at donnabond.com. You're also the author of Original Wisdom, Harness the Power of the Authentic You. So talk a little bit about what you're most excited about in your business and your coaching practice today.
Well, I just launched a masterclass called Empower the Authentic You, and I'm most excited about all the people who have stepped forward to carve out time in their busy lives to show up for themselves.
That's awesome.
And we have 15 highly engaged people who have come together, like complete strangers, right? Come together for this really cool journey of transformation.
And it's all
And I love it. I love being the guide.
Yeah. It's all online. You're Zooming all that?
Yes. Yep. Yes. I'm Zooming it.
You're Zooming it. Someday it'll be awesome when we can all get together and not be scared again. But yes, I mean, Zoom is cool too. So, right? Where would we be in the pandemic without Zoom? So, yay. Good Zoom. And that sounds like fun. So good for you. So this is Vroom Vroom Veer. So that means we have to go back in time and talk about Little Donna. Little Donna with the Italian last name. So where did you grow up, Little Donna?
I grew up in Connecticut.
Okay.
Both of my parents were children of immigrants from Italy. Everybody came over on the boat, all my grandparents.
Holy cow.
And we grew up.
You were third generation American.
Yeah, third generation.
Gotcha.
And it was all about hard work and sacrifice. I'm the oldest of 3 girls.
Right.
We all sort of put our nose to the grindstone and put our head down, put our high heels on the corporate ladder, and started climbing.
Yeah. Good for you, though. That's cool.
Yeah, it was cool. My dad died when I was 22.
Oh, that's kind of young to lose a dad.
Yeah, it was pretty young. He was only 44.
Wow.
Which makes the whole thing really interesting, right? When we start talking about midlife.
Right.
Because he was in his midlife.
Right. Yeah. So his big veer was terminal veer. Ouch. Not good.
Yeah, terminal cancer, actually.
Really?
Yeah,
Talk a
lung
little bit,
cancer.
Talk a little bit about what going through that at 22 was like. Were you in college or?
Yeah, I was a
Yeah.
freshman in college,
Right.
and it was really fast, Jeff. That's all I know is
Lung
it was
cancer.
fast.
It was just fast.
It was.
Like he's okay, and then he's not. Right.
Yeah, and we didn't know if he was going to be okay, but we found out that he was sick. I can remember my parents like sitting us down, and we took this family picture that was like felt like such a significant moment in time because it was like everything changed after this picture got taken. So we had this picture taken with our father, and then 5 minutes later, my parents were telling us what was going on. And, it was very dramatic, and we'd never, of course, dealt with anything like that before in our lives. And
That's rough. Yeah.
my dad was like, we're going to fight this, and I'm going to be dancing at all of your weddings.
Right.
And 3 months later, boop, 3 months later,
Wow.
he passed away.
Wow.
Yeah. It was pretty intense.
That's hardcore. That is rough.
But, as life would have it, because life is so beautiful the way it unfolds, right? We can always look behind us and see how all the pieces fit together.
Right.
It was my doorway into spirituality and metaphysics.
Really?
It was like
Okay.
the first, introduction to my awareness of, gosh, there's more than what's right here. And I had a couple of like really significant and cool encounters with my father after he died.
Oh, wow.
That were
Interesting.
pretty important and significant.
Yes. Okay. Wow. Let me ask you this: were you able to be there when he died? Did that happen? Or
I
no?
was.
You were in the
Yeah.
room. Okay.
I was in the room.
Wow.
It's so interesting that you're asking me about this because, I remember
It's a huge
sitting
deal.
at his bedside.
It's a huge
and
deal to witness
We-
a death and attend a death.
Yeah,
Huge.
we turned off the life support, which makes it even more precarious, right?
Yes. Ouch.
And I remember sitting over his body and like watching to see if I could see his
Something
soul.
happened. Right. Okay.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
leaving his body.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't see anything.
Okay.
The eyes of my body didn't see anything.
Right. I get it. Sure.
Yeah.
Were you there, like in the moment when he passed over? Were you there? You were there, and so you were watching, and then one moment he was there, and then the next moment he was gone.
He was in a coma. He was in a
Okay.
coma.
So basically,
Yeah, so-
the going was just the beeping stopped, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
rough.
My last, conscious interaction with him was the night before. We were sitting at the kitchen table, and my grandmother made a chocolate cream pie.
Okay.
And so I always remember that my father's last meal was like chocolate cream pie, which I think is kind of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you can't do much better than that. Chocolate cream pie.
You can't do much better than that.
I would rather have wings, beers, and French fries, but hey, I'll take
I
the
hear
chocolate
you.
cream pie. Okay, but so I had another guest on, and so she was able to be there, attend, and when in the moment of his death, he sat up bolt straight, and she looked him in the eyes and sort of like saw this surprise, and then noticed that he was seeing the other side. I'm going to put that in air quotes for people. Whatever the hell that means, because words fail a little bit. But, he was seeing something, right? So
Yeah.
when you were there and you were sitting with him and he was still around and conscious, did you get that experience of he was sort of like half here, half not here? Sort of like a foot in both sides?
He wasn't conscious,
Oh,
unfortunately.
okay. All right. So you
Yeah,
didn't
he
have
wasn't
that
conscious at
opportunity.
all. He
No.
slipped into a coma.
Gotcha.
And then he was in a coma
Gotcha.
for, the
Right. For the most of the time.
the
that you were
hours
there.
before his death. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Still, though, a gift, I think, that you were able to be there and attend.
Yeah. And, I think the other gift, too, is while it was difficult that it was
Still
so
have to
sudden and
grieve.
it was so quick,
Right.
we did not have to go through a long, drawn out, difficult, journey of fighting this illness.
Right.
And I think that that's a hidden blessing in this.
For sure. Yep. Because you're thinking that he's suffering, right? And then, and you're feeling guilty about, almost feeling guilty that you want him to die because that'll give him release of pain and suffering. I get it. But you still have to grieve. So that's pretty tough for somebody 22 years old in college having to go through grieving. So that's not an easy path.
Well, my mother looked at all three of us and she said, all right, back to work.
Sure.
Back to school.
Right.
There's no long faces around here. Everybody go back to your stations.
Yeah, stations.
And
right.
Yeah. And so that's what we did.
Yeah.
That's what we did. And the next thing I knew, I was 45.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And that's why it was such a wake-up call, Jeff, because I was like, I woke up sort of at the top of my game in my profession.
Yep. Right.
Making great money. I really had it all, in air quotes.
Yes.
On the surface, it all looked perfect.
Yes.
And deep down, I was really, really unhappy. But the big punch in the stomach here was I was like, holy shit, I am the age that my father was when he died. And that was like, what am I doing with my life?
Right.
What is this? Every year,
right.
We just do another budget. We make another marketing plan. We just we're on autopilot. We're just on this conveyor belt.
You're on a treadmill. Yes.
Ugh, the monotony of it all. So painful.
Get me off this crazy thing.
Get me off.
Yes. I went through that when, as I was retiring from the military. The first thing I did was get another job in the military. That's what a lot of people do. It's like, I have no clue. But that was sort of like the beginning. I actually started waking up and reading a lot of spiritual books while I was still active duty, right? So remember you said something like Veers give clues when they're coming, right? Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit about some of the clues that you were getting while you were still working in that job. Walk us up there. So obviously, in the big moment of the Veer, you're like, what the hell am I doing, right? But what were some of the clues that led up to that?
Well, when we consider our whole self, we have to look at all four levels of our consciousness, right?
Okay,
we have
perfect.
our mental, we have our emotional, we have our physical, and we have our spiritual.
Perfect.
These four different realms, these four different levels.
Yes.
Yeah, and so mentally, I was trapped in negativity. It was like nothing could make me happy. I just saw everything I saw, the glass was half empty, right?
Okay.
I was just very negative.
Right.
And experiencing a lot of discontent. Just really nothing could satisfy me, nothing could make me happy. Right. And again, keep in mind, on the surface, I'm winning awards and I'm making all kinds of money and I have prestige and sort of
acting cool. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I get it.
Emotionally, I was depressed, I think.
Right.
I was feeling very deeply unfulfilled. And it's interesting, and I just want to make a comment about that word because I didn't know that at the time. I could not have pointed to that then. I knew something was missing. I knew that there was this hole that I was trying to fill, and I didn't know how to fill it, but I didn't understand that it was fulfillment. That was a really big piece of what I was searching for that eluded me at the time, right?
Okay.
So that was mental. And then physical is actually the caboose on the train, because things first happen in the invisible world. They happen in the world of imagination, right? First, everything is first a thought.
Right.
And so then our thoughts come into our minds and then they move through our emotional body and then they kind of come out in physical world reality.
Right.
So that's why I say the physical is the last to know.
Right. Okay.
And my physical was a hot mess. It was a hot mess. And I was doing what most corporate executives do, Jeff.
Right.
I ignored it. I was ignoring all of it.
Right.
I
Tune that
actually,
out. It's
Yeah.
weird because our brains help that too. That process, right? I don't know. In your health journey, I did trigger point therapy, right? So a lot of muscle pain, your brain is wired to turn off. So that's what a trigger point is. It's like you've got this little patch of muscle that's not getting enough blood flow, right? And for a while, maybe like a little while, it'll tell the brain, hey, this hurts, right? But then there's nothing your body can do about it. It can't really talk to you in words. So the brain will just go, hey, we'll just turn that off, right? Like there's this.
okay, this is so interesting to me.
There's this inner Scotty in your brain going, we'll have to get to that later. Yeah,
This is so interesting.
This is the
trigger
first time-
point therapy.
Yeah. Oh, you've never
I'm
heard
gonna
of
look it
trigger
up.
point therapy? Okay. Yeah, it was called like a neuromuscular therapy. Do you know much about JFK? So he had like really bad trigger point. So to the point where his movement was really limited even when he was president. So that's why he looks really stiff moving.
Yeah, he always did look stiff.
Yeah, right. So he had an MD on his staff that was treating him and simultaneously doing this gigantic research that ended up in these 2 volumes that became trigger point therapy. Her name was Janet Travell, and there's these 2 gigantic volumes that is trigger point therapy. I can boil it all down, right? But there are books that look like encyclopedias that, and she was an MD too, so it's got a good scientific background. But anyway, I digress.
Well, thank you. That's like a golden nugget for me. Really, it's a golden nugget for me for a couple of different reasons that I won't go into. But
that's fine. You can go into it a little
so
bit.
yes.
Yeah.
So I had the beginnings of a frozen shoulder. And I don't,
Right
if
now?
any of your
Okay.
listeners.
Yeah.
No, not right now.
Okay.
Like back then,
In
at age 45,
Okay,
when
gotcha.
when I was like with all this misery.
Yeah,
you
my
know?
wife went through full frozen shoulder. It takes
Brutal.
a lot of therapy. And then the other one has it too. So if you think you're done, you're not, because you have to do both.
Well, a doctor said that to me, and I was like,
No,
I
you're not
cannot
gonna
even
do that.
believe that you're saying that.
Okay. And so it didn't
I
happen to
didn't-
you? Good for you.
It didn't
Because
happen
you
to me.
wrote your own damn story. Good for you.
Kind of. Yes. Yes.
Good for you.
Well, so I had this, this significant discomfort. And the other thing that was going on that I wasn't aware of was I had cancer growing in my body.
Whoa.
That I
That's a
later
big deal.
discovered through a prophetic dream.
Wow.
But that's a whole other story,
yeah,
right?
We'll dig into that one later. Because that sounds scary.
And
I don't want to
then-
say awesome, but it sounds good. It sounds like it's a good story anyway.
Well, so I was just, mentally, emotionally, physically, there was a
wreck.
lot of misalignment. That's
Right.
what I call this.
You're a wreck.
Misalignment.
Yes.
And my head
You're probably
and my heart.
also not eating right. You're not sleeping right. You're not moving. You're not doing all the things, right? You're just working.
For sure.
Yes. I think I was exact. So like for me, my health journey was like when I was in my late 30s, early 40s. So close to where you were. If I were to go to the outlet mall with my wife, like she could just go, right? No problem. Walk all damn day. No problem. Right? She would get tired, but not like in pain. Now me, I'd be like, walk 6 steps and go, where's a bench? Right? I was in like full body inflammation mode, right? From my diet, from lack of movement, from just, the military telling me what to do and going, yes, sir. Right?
God
so
bless you.
I had I have not a military journey, a health journey in front of me. And it was mostly just, cleaning up the diet, getting off of all the sugar and processed foods. And then coming up with, yoga, trigger point therapy. But yeah, I mean, I think we all go through that. That for me, that was where one of my big awakenings came through that.
Mine as well.
Okay.
Mine as well. So in my misery, right?
Right.
And the last thing because I don't want to overlook the spiritual level in this when I talk about,
right.
the 4 levels of our consciousness and our wholeness. Spiritually, I was bankrupt. Spiritually, I was so disconnected from myself and from a higher power, from the universe, from the world. I was very, very disconnected.
At that point, what was sort of like the background noise of anything spiritual? Did you grow up in the church?
No.
Not at all.
Okay. Well, I grew up Roman Catholic.
Right.
However, I had been a spiritual seeker since a young age, like since I was 12 or 13.
Wow.
And then when my father died, that raised my curiosity even more so. If you could see my office, you'd see hundreds and hundreds of books.
Right.
I'm very well read.
Right.
But you can take in a lot of knowledge, right? You can read a lot of stuff, but that doesn't make you spiritual.
No.
That doesn't make you really connected.
Right.
And so even though mentally I could tell you about a lot of stuff, there wasn't really any substance to it that was fully integrated into who I was, how I lived, how I show up in the world. Yeah. So on the advice of a psychic, because I went to this psychic and I was bawling to her. I'm like, I'm miserable. I need to find my purpose.
Right.
And she said, Donna, they're spelling it out for me. Spiritual psychology. And I said, what in the hell is spiritual psychology?
I love it. But what the hell is that? Okay.
So she said, there's 3 universities that teach a program in this. And she gave me 2 of the 3. And she we just never got to the 3rd one because we started talking about something else. We got sidetracked. Well, I went home, consulted the real Oracle and Googled it. And very quickly found my way to the University of Santa Monica.
Ooh,
and
nice.
Even though I'm working like a 60-hour-a-week corporate drive, right? Like I am in this very big career.
Right.
I have a lot of responsibilities. I'm physically not well, right? Like I don't feel good.
You're busy and burnt out.
I am busy and burnt out. But what do? I enroll myself in this damn master's program. And I don't know why. Honest to God, there was no logical reason why I would have done this. But I was reaching. I was just like, I've got to fill this void somehow.
You're grasping at straws, so to speak. Yes.
Yeah, I kind of was at the time. And so I enrolled in this program. And, to answer the question, so spiritual psychology is a technology. And it's like a modality, if you want to think about it that way. And it teaches us that every single thing that's happening in our life, the good, the bad, the ugly, and I'm from Connecticut, so I like to say the super wicked ugly. Like, it's all for you. It's all for us, right? Yes. You have this on your website about, there's a blessing in every silver lining. Those aren't your exact words, but something to that effect.
Right.
And this is a really big perception shift, that when we can begin to view our life as if everything is giving me the stepping stone to move to my next level of potential, to grow, to evolve, to transform, to change, to move forward, then we can look at all of the trauma and all of the drama and all of the shit that happens and be able to say, hey, what's here for me
there might
to
be
learn?
There might be some levers that I can pull here.
Yeah.
Inside myself, there might be some levers. So one of those books that you probably read with me, maybe not. Like, I don't remember which one, but it might have been an Eckhart Tolle book or a Deepak Chopra book. One of those spiritual books, right? They were trying to get me to believe that I was 100% responsible for my human experience, soup to nuts, birth to death, right?
Yes.
So I got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to act as if that's true and test it. So then something bad happens to me and I go, why did I do that to me? It's just a brand new, awesome question. Why did I do that to me? Why did I do that to me?
That's a judgment, right? And but here's where we have to separate the idea here. And here's where maybe I can offer some context around this.
Sure, please.
You know, most of us, we're very over-identified with our learned self, our ego and our personality, right? The part of us that is conditioned, the part of us that has been taught from our parents, our teachers, our governments, our religions, our societies, our cultures, on and on and on the influences go, telling us who to be, how to be, what to be, why to be, right? There's all of that.
Who you are, yes.
But there's this whole other part of our being, which is our higher self. It's our soul, if you want to think about it that way. It's what I call our original wisdom.
Okay.
And this part of us is, if you think about it in an energetic way, this part of us is the energy of what we can only understand as love.
I like
right?
that. Yes.
What we can only understand as love. Like, that's just the best way that we can get our heads around it from our human perspective.
This is where words fail sometimes. Yes.
Yes, I hear you. Yes. I totally hear you.
Right.
But I
Hard
want
to describe in words. Right.
Yeah. And you know, when you just sit with yourself quietly and you just connect with your breath and you let your mind stop with all of the chaos and the monkey activity, and you know how underneath all of the noise and the chaos and the activity and the doing and the striving and the pushing and the forcing and all the shit, right?
Yes, all the shit.
Underneath all of that, there's like this calm. There's just this really gentle peacefulness. And this exists in everyone, right? It's not just in some people, it is in everyone. Well, that peacefulness is like the doorway or the gateway to be able to access this higher part of yourself. And everyone has this higher part of themselves, you know, this higher wisdom-filled part of themselves. So because it's an energy, right? It's something that's in the invisible world. It's intangible. We can't touch it. We can't see it.
Right.
But it has a frequency to it, right? Like if you think about musical notes, music, you can't see music, right? We hear music through one of our five senses. Every musical note has a vibrational frequency to it.
Right.
Well, this energy that is our higher self has a frequency to it. And that frequency is kind of like data in a way, to think about it. It's like
information.
Internet data, let's say.
It's your connection.
So
sure.
There's information
Totally.
in this energetic field. There's information, there's data in this, on this frequency, right? And so that data, this energy, it's actually an intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
And so whatever that book was that you read,
Whatever that book was.
that was saying, you know, we have to take responsibility for our everything that's happening to us in our human experience. Where I think we have to make the separation is that it's our higher self, our soul, that sets forward our Earth School curriculum.
Right.
The learning journey that we're each going to go on in life. And because we have free choice, we get to choose in our human response how we're going to relate to whatever it is that's happening in our life, right?
Right. How are we going to deal with it?
How are we going to deal with it? How are we going to relate to it?
Right.
And that's really where the learning takes place and where the learning happens. And it's like, yeah, we can't control everything that's outside of us. And this is where people fall into traps because we are driven by this misunderstanding that we have to control everything in our outer experience so that we get to feel good inside.
Right.
Well, we kind of have it backwards. If we begin to pay attention to the reactivity and the responses that we're having inside
Yes.
and bring our love and attention to that, then maybe we can begin to relate to ourselves in a different way.
Right.
In a more compassionate way, in a more loving way.
You said it there. Yeah. Because like when you're in that reactive mode, so like when I said responsible, I think that again here word fails. Word
right.
fail.
I hear you. I hear you.
So like and it sounds judgy. I get that.
Yeah.
But I want to say like this is how I delineate responsible. You can be responsible 100%. I can anyway, and not be to blame. So like I can be responsible. My higher self, I agree. Some part of me that is more connected now to like whatever that original wisdom is, be it a universal field of conscious love or whatever it is, the big void, the big Om. And not necessarily, so blame is one of those words that is intrinsically means, well, you're responsible and you need to be punished, right? So we don't need that. That's why I use like, okay, I did this to me. Some piece of me, my higher self, is trying to talk to me. It's trying to communicate, right, through these events in my life. And it's up to me to figure out how I'm going to respond. And I want to respond with, gentle, compassionate love to me. That's how I want to respond to that and learn and get that information and, move forward, as they say. So does that make sense?
So the soul, the higher self, the higher self doesn't really have the ability to blame.
Right.
Because the soul, the higher self is really only made of love, pure love, 24/7 love. That's all it cares about is love.
Right.
And all of the derivatives of that. So you've got like joy and aliveness and, all that yummy juju that we're always out looking for.
And anger. Yeah. Fear and anger.
No, not.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's what I think. But, that's just maybe where we disagree.
Yeah, no. So say more about that, because so if we're angry, then that we're in our ego.
So what's the opposite of fear?
Love.
There you go. Right. So that if love is all, it must include fear. Right? So it's just another.
It depends on what level you're on.
That's true. Yes.
It depends on what level you're on, because
at some level
fear,
there is no fear, right? But
fear and love do not exist on the same plane, on the same level, to use your words.
Right. There's different levels. Right. At some level, there's no fear, right? Because love is all there is, right? But if love is all there is, and we are all there is, and there is fear, then, in so facto, love must include fear at some level. That's all. Again, words fail. Whenever I'm fearful, right? Whenever I'm fearful, I want to check to see if that's actually fear or irrational fear. So if there's a lion coming at me, right, and it's going, you look yummy. That's fear that I need, right? I need to leave or shoot it or, get myself. That's an actual fear. Now, if I have this irrational sort of like fear that isn't a lion coming at me, but I'm just laying in bed and suddenly afraid for no good reason, it's a piece of information from love that is expressing in my body as fear now that I need to work on. That's all So to me, that's how it all plays out. Does that make sense? You're making that
I totally hear what you're saying. Okay. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I see it a little bit differently. That
please. This is how we understand things, right?
Really, like I like to think of it as there's two different aspects. Okay. And the aspect from the soul's perspective, there is no judgment. There is no, we get trapped in the world of right and wrong.
Right.
In our ego mind, right? Everything's right or wrong, good or bad, black or white, up or down. And so that's the world that the ego lives in.
Right.
So I think, when you're talking about love and fear, we might be referring to it in that polarity of ego land.
Sure.
But there's a different love, Jeff. It's a bigger love.
The agape love.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the agape love? That's the unconditional love. Right. Yeah. And when I sit, that's where I'm trying to go. I've got this little reminder for me when I do meditation that the truth is still true. That's sort of like my release into that agape love, back into the unified field of consciousness that we are, that is love. So that's how, like, regardless of what happens in the movie or the Matrix, you always, at the end of the day, can go back to home.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, do you meditate? Is that part of your
yes.
practice? So talk a little bit about what your meditation practice looks like.
Yeah, well, so I enrolled myself in the spiritual psychology program. I'm a year into the program, and now my frozen shoulder is like just brutal. Like, it's really frozen, and I am in so much pain.
And at this point, you're not working on it at all, or you're just...
Well, I was working on it.
Okay.
I hadn't taken full responsibility of it.
Aha! Right.
And, you know, it was such a gorgeous metaphor for where I was in my life, because I was frozen, right? Like, I knew I was unhappy, but I wasn't doing anything about it. I wasn't really taking steps to move myself forward.
Right. So you're not taking the information from that clue. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I ended up going in for surgery.
Ooh.
And in conjunction with that, I started meditating because it was the only way that I could get out of pain. It was the only way I could get out of pain.
Wow.
Was to sit still and to be quiet and to not think and to not move. And I went to the Chopra Center, actually, in Carlsbad,
nice.
California, when
there.
it existed. It doesn't exist there any longer, which is a bummer.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but I took this program called Rest and Restore, and I learned all about meditation and, you know, got given a mantra and I don't know, you know, from that day, I fell into it, and I don't miss it. I don't miss it. You know, now that I'm 53, got to move these bones. So I get up in the morning and I do some movement and some yoga.
Right.
And then I'll usually sit in meditation for about 25 minutes.
Nice.
And nothing happens in my day until that happens.
Good for you.
And
it's
it
like
really,
air or oxygen for you. So you need
it is like air or oxygen.
Yes.
Yeah. And I ended up having a prophetic dream.
Neat.
So I quit my job. Okay. I did not become a coach. There was still like nothing in my consciousness or not one belief system in my body that thought I could be a coach, wanted to be a coach. I mean, the first time I heard out of my mouth that I wanted to be a spiritual teacher, I was like, wait, what? Like, because my corporate persona was like, wait, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
So, you know, there's been a lot of evolution in this one.
Donna Bond.
There's been a lot of evolution.
Gotcha.
But so I quit my job, which was, you know, big divine intervention, hung out a shingle as a marketing consultant, and for about a year and a half. And it's funny, you know, you quit the military and then they were your first job.
Yes.
I quit the Ritz-Carlton and then they were my first consulting client.
See?
Right.
Baby steps. Baby steps.
Baby steps.
Baby
Yes,
steps.
totally.
You know.
Totally. So I'm doing this marketing gig, and I had a dream that I was looking at myself in a mirror, and I had this giant fish hook all the way through my left breast, like bloody and messy. Wow. And I was fixated on the barb, like at the end of this fish hook. And I'm looking at this thing, and I'm looking at myself in a mirror in my dream. And I say out loud in my dream, how are you going to get out of this? And I woke up.
Wow.
And as soon as I woke up, I remembered that a couple of months before, I felt this tiny little, like it felt like a piece of sand, like a little pebble that was on my breast.
Okay.
And my first thought was, oh, is that still there? And guess what?
It was.
It was.
Yeah.
And so that day, I made an appointment. Yeah.
Yes.
I made an appointment, which led to another and another and another. And 5 days before my 47th birthday, I was being given a triple negative positive breast cancer diagnosis, which was even more sobering, right? That my father died of cancer, and now here I am at the crossroad. Like, I'm at the fork, you know?
Right.
And I really believe, had I not had the awakening that I had I not enrolled myself in this master's program, had I not stepped down from my job, you know, I could be dead by now. Who knows?
Right.
All I know is I would not have discovered this cancer in the way that I did. And the other, like, really miraculous part of the story is the treatment that I ended up having. I had a lumpectomy, and then I had something called intraoperative radiation therapy.
Okay.
And that is something that takes place instead of 7 weeks of whole breast radiation. Which
That's better. That's got to be better. Yeah.
Well, it takes place during the surgery. It's like 20 minutes, and they radiate the area for 20 minutes. And
More
but
direct,
you have to qualify.
more focused. Okay.
Yeah, like your tumor needs to be a certain size and type and this and that. But she says to me, the doctor says to me, the device that we use to administer the IORT is shaped like a fish hook.
Ooh.
I know. So I'm crying.
Wow.
My husband's crying. My surgeon's crying. Like, I'm going to qualify. Like, this is my treatment plan.
Yeah.
Right.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
And it worked.
And so I dealt with the breast cancer in a very, very different way than I dealt with the frozen shoulder, right? When I had the frozen shoulder, I was pissed. I was like, listen, I don't have time for this.
Right.
This is interrupting my life. I don't have time to go see all these doctors and do all this physical therapy. Like, I don't have time for this.
Yep.
And
I've
that
been
was
there
really
too.
how I was treating myself.
Right.
You know, that's how I was being really relentless and unforgiving and mean to myself.
Right.
Which was sort of...
And you were probably blaming doctors, why can't they figure this shit out? Right?
Yeah.
This isn't my job. Why can't they
Right.
just fix me? I mean, I got
Exactly.
shit to do.
Exactly.
Those are
exactly.
all my words. Those are all my words. So I went through something very similar but less life-threatening. I had the skin condition for 12 years, okay? And it did not go away. And I went to, so something about I'm going to dish a little bit on, what are the dermatologists in Southern California? They're more they're focused on other things, not necessarily rashes. Just gonna say, but when I got to Vegas, I finally decided to go see another dermatologist, thinking this is not gonna go anywhere. I've seen a million of them, and they don't know what's going on, right? And I was not there in the office 5 minutes, and he says, "Oh, I know what that is. Here's your sheet. Get out of here." And I'm like, and then I'm fixed. Yeah, I'm like.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was I was mad at me for a little while for being so stubborn, like you and your frozen shoulder. I was just not ready for 12 years to accept this wisdom, I guess. I still haven't figured it all out. I'm just glad.
So can I ask you a question?
Gone. Yes, please.
So where, because I know you're also a meditator.
Yes.
Where did your meditation practice begin in relation to the rash?
I would say it was, let's see, I probably started meditating still in the military around 05, 06. I got the rash when I was in massage school, so 2011, 2012. And I was meditating right on through it. It's weird. I still haven't really unbundled all of that. I'm still working on it. Now, the rash is gone, but the bigger lesson, the spiritual information, there's a lot. There's a lot, and I'm still working on that.
Well, our skin is a
That's the boundary.
sixth chakra issue,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
A sixth chakra issue, which is our connection to a higher power.
Okay.
So if that is useful at all.
Maybe I'll have to sit with that, like
Yeah.
where that skin issue sits. So it's funny because I did this. I bought a audiobook with Pema Chodron, and she was
The
talking.
places that scare you.
When things fall apart. No, how to get unstuck. How to get unstuck. Which is awesome, and she's awesome. I love Pema Chodron.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she talked about this itch that doesn't go away, and I just can't. And I was basically addicted to scratching, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. So, yes, there's a lot to unpack. So, I mean, none of this stops, right? You're never done. You're not done. You just have to keep going. But
We are not done as long as we're in these bodies.
Correct. Yes, correct. Well, then it's not done either, but, that's another thing. Okay, so how did you discover that you can write your story? I want to get that in there because we're getting close to wrapping up here.
Yeah, okay. So when I was 17 years old, I saw a Chinese wrinkle dog, Chinese Shar-Pei. You know those dogs with all the wrinkles?
Oh, okay. So you can't even see their eyes. They're just all wrinkled.
Right.
Yes, gotcha.
Right. So I saw these dogs, one of these dogs, and I was like, oh my God, I got to have one of those dogs because I was bananas over these dogs.
Right.
I was obsessed. Now,
How can something alive look like that? It looks like a...
right. But I know this might be hard for, depending on who's listening. This was before the internet existed, right?
Okay.
This is a long time ago that this is happening.
Like in the 80s.
But somehow, yes, it was the 80s.
Right.
It was the 80s. Somehow, probably like 1984,
Right.
somehow I managed to collect pictures and magazine articles and classified ads.
Wow.
And I created what we would today call a vision board, right? So I created this, and time went by. I had a lot of energy about this, right? I somehow in my mind, I was going to get one of these
Fixated.
dogs come hell or high water.
Correct.
And they were expensive. I was a kid in high school. These dogs were like $1,400 or $1,500 back in 1984, right?
Right. Wow.
And even if I had that kind of money, my parents weren't going to let me spend that on the family dog.
Right.
But so time went on, and slowly I sort of relaxed my grip around this. And I was on the phone with a friend, and they say to me, oh, hey, by the way, my sister's boyfriend is looking to find a home for a dog. Do you know anybody who might want to take in, this stray dog? And I said, nope, I don't know anybody. Didn't ask any other questions. But we get to the end of our telephone conversation, and once again, he says to me, hey, if you know anybody who might be interested in the Sharpie. And I said, in the what? And he goes, the dog, the Sharpie. I said, do you mean a Shar-Pei? And he said, I don't know, Donna. It's one of those dogs with all the wrinkles, right? So as I moved through my spiritual psychology masters, I began playing with consciousness. I really began to understand how plastic our thinking is, how we have a lot more power to direct this everywhere invisible energy than we think we do. And it came to my awareness that oh my God, I've been doing this, writing my own story my whole life.
Totally.
I just didn't know it.
Right.
And so we're always writing our story. It's just a matter of how much awareness we bring to that story. So we're either creating by design or we're creating by default.
Correct. Yes.
So once I
And
realized...
when you're in default mode, other people are inputting into that story too. Like
yes.
the internet and TV and news and Trump and Biden.
Military.
And the military.
Yes.
Yes. All those people. Yes. Anyway.
All those people. Yeah. So
Just take
that's
that
why
pen.
it's so important that we
Take that pen.
we got to take dominion over our own thinking and
Captain,
where are
my
we
captain.
investing
Correct.
our thoughts?
Yes. Yes. That's awesome. So other people were writing your story, but the thing is you always have to like you said something earlier, something that I agree with was your free will is perfect. So even when someone influences you writing your story, you're still signing off on it. You're just going, oh, okay, yeah, all right. That's what's happening next. At some level, you're still writing it. But you want to make sure that the words are yours and, you get your sharp A. Okay, so this has been a blast. We are going to have to wrap up, I guess. What a bummer. There should be a round 2 and a round 3 because this was just a lot of fun. And
thank you, Jeff.
I can
It was
learn a
fun.
lot from Donna Bond. So talk a little bit about how people can best connect with Donna Bond at donnabond.com. I want to keep saying that.
Yeah. Actually, I've got some gifts for your listeners. If they go to donnabond.com/podcasts.
Ooh, perfect.
And I've got actually 4 ways to get unstuck.
Nice.
So if people are in their life right now and they're looking for a way to move forward, that will give you some really good intel as well as some usable tools that you can apply to your own life. And if you're interested in my book, Original Wisdom, Harness the Power of the Authentic You, you can find more information there as well. Jeff, thank you. It's been really fun.
It's been a blast. Let's do it again sometime soon.
All right.
Okay. You have a good day.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.